Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about a strategy that I've been trading pretty successfully actually on the S&P 500 and the US 30. If you guys know these things, you know they are very highly volatile. And this strategy that I'm going to be talking about is one that I've used pretty well recently. In fact, we are going to take a look at some of the trades that I've been sharing inside of the A1 trading community and how they played out. I'll be going through some of the examples of recent trades that I've used this exact strategy to capture some really nice setups. Before we get too far in the video, if you are interested in the A1 trading community, you can follow along with the trades that I am sharing as well as some of our other analysts. You can see we've got a list of different paid analysts who are basically sharing their trades and analysis in real time. But with that said, I'm going to go through some of the trades that I personally have been sharing inside of the group. If you're interested in joining the A1 trading community, you can find out information in the description down below. There's also a discount code for you, so go check it out. See if it's an interesting place for you to come join us and trade with us. So with that said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through some trades and some ideas here about the US 30 and the S&P 500 and why I'm trading it the way I'm trading it. So the first thing I want to talk about when we're looking at the S&P 500, for example, is that this thing is a very momentum-based trading vehicle. What I mean by that is it seems to really respect trends most of the time, which is actually rare for markets, right? Because a lot of times we know that markets spend a lot of time consolidating, right? Well, the interesting thing that I've been noticing here with the S&P 500 and the US 30 is that historically it really is pretty trendy. So it actually gets going one way or the other, and there's money to be made riding those trends. So if you know me from my other trading videos on the channel, you already know that a lot of times I'm already looking to go with momentum. But it's even more stressed and more important in my view to be trading with the momentum on these things, US 30, S&P 500, when they're really going, rather than trying to fade these moves. So what that means is that when this market is moving up, I'm looking to be long. When this market is going down, I'm looking to be short. Keeping it really simple, because the momentum, when it starts getting going, it has a lot of potential. There's this analogy that I like when it comes to trading these things. It's kind of like these things are big trains, right? And you don't want to get in front of a train and try and stop it, because it takes a lot of force to stop a moving train. Instead, we'd probably just rather jump on board that train and see how far it goes and then hop out when things change. Interestingly enough, you can actually see we are having a little bit of a momentum change as we speak, which, you know, is part of some of the examples we're going to take a look at from the premium service that I offer. We'll take a look at that in just a moment. But again, my idea here, the basis for this strategy is I want to be trading with the momentum. So what you'll notice is I've got my simple little moving averages here. They're not magical. I know a lot of times people get super triggered by moving averages, but all I'm trying to do with moving averages here is to direct or see the direction of the overall market's momentum, right? Because yes, they are lagging. There's a lot of lagging indicators when it comes to any sort of technical analysis. But the idea here is that because this price is moving higher, we're seeing those moving averages line up, and that tells us that, okay, this market is in momentum to the upside. And there were a ton of long trades to be taken here, simply riding the direction of the momentum. So how do we actually determine the momentum? Because before we start taking trades, if momentum is the basis for this strategy, how are we going to identify momentum? Well, there's a few different things you need to think about, because the number one thing is you have to look at your time frame. If we're looking at the daily time frame, if you're looking to swing these sort of things, first of all, you probably need more capital, because the swings can be lots and lots of pips on these things. So be very careful with that. On top of that, when we're looking at the daily chart, right, these swings can be a month long, 2 months. If you had bought into the momentum here, right, when we started to see that moving average crossover, for example, if you had bought that and held all this time, you'd still be in this trade, and that's like 3 months of trading. So you have to be ready for those time frames, or you have to be aware of the time frame that you're trading. If we drop it down to the 1 hour chart, for example, this is one that I've been trading pretty regularly on these S&P moves recently. I've been looking at the 1 hour chart and trading with the momentum momentum here. So last week, we'll take a look at our first example. Last week on Friday, I caught some really nice sell side on the S&P 500 right around this area. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys the trades. I think that's the best way to give you guys an example of a trade setup, and then we'll work out exactly why I took the trade from there. So let's pull it up here, and what you can see is I actually sent out to members, I said, hey, I'm taking a sell at this level with a stop loss above structure, and basically my idea here was I did actually get stopped out on a previous one. It was a very small trade. I re-entered, and I basically wanted to get in here. You actually can see the momentum trade initially. So price was moving lower. It started to come up and then faded very quickly. I just like the momentum here, right? I'm not getting super complicated with this because the market's dipping hard. Again, a lot of times this thing keeps going in the direction that it is currently going. So I'd rather be looking to short and ride that momentum, even though it looks like, oh, Nick, it's come down, it's got to come up now. It actually ended up moving much lower, you can see here. And that end of the week sell-off produced some really, really good trading opportunities, catching that momentum, right? So I actually closed out a really nice profit there, and I closed it before the end of the weekend because I didn't want to hold it over the weekend. But back to the chart, you can see actually what happened here. It was right around this area here is where I was looking to get short. So again, all I was doing was there was momentum to the downside, and I said, okay, I want to be short. I'd rather be short here than long because the momentum is shifting. We've got moving averages moving towards the down direction, just showing short-term momentum to the downside. And I looked to get short initially here. This one didn't work out, but I actually took a secondary short on the pullback, right? So I'm still using those different concepts that we've talked about on the channel 100 times, you know, looking for pullbacks, looking for high probability setups, using technical analysis, still using all that, but really a heavy emphasis on looking for momentum to be on our side. So again, price came to this point. I got short and saw some really nice downtrend continuation. Again, it's almost like it's almost like sailing with the wind in your sail when you're going with this momentum, especially on something like the US30 or the S&P 500. Because again, when it gets moving, it can really, really move. And that's where my idea here with this strategy is basically, okay, get short on some sort of technical pullback, but make sure that number one, you are with the momentum, right? We want to be with the momentum of the market. Number two, we're still going to look at all of our normal entries. We're going to do proper technical analysis, right? We're just going to look for pullbacks. We're going to look for potential setups that give us a pretty decent entry point. Of course, that being things like price action, that being things pulling back to structure, that sort of basic concepts that we've talked about again and again. But the third part is the really, really important part. We need to know when, and forgive my handwriting, we are wrong. Okay, this is a big one because if we're going to be trading with the momentum, what does that tell us? Momentum trading tells us that we want to be long when it's going up and short when it's going down. And if things change, we need to get out of this trade. In other words, we need to know when we are wrong. So with that said, this is where things get interesting. If we took a short here, which we did, my stop was not too far away. So my idea here was that if price kept going, then momentum was no longer on my side, and I'm gonna get out of this trade and I'm gonna go do something else, find another momentum setup or whatever, right? But the big thing is knowing when you're wrong and getting out of there before it destroys your account. So many traders get caught up shorting something and then they hold on to it forever, or they go long on something and it just goes down and down and down and they never know when to cut the trade. So this is a big piece of this strategy, is cutting those losers very quickly. But if things go in your favor, this is where things get interesting. Because if momentum is on your side and you jump into a trade and it goes in your favor and momentum continues the way you had hoped it for, the big thing here is this is where we're going to cash out. This is where you take a sell trade here. You've got your stop here. Price moves in our favor to the downside. Well, this is where we need to really jump on this and capitalize. And this is where part of this strategy for me is you take that trade, yes, but then you've got your stop managed. And as it moves in your favor, this is where I'm going to be moving my stop with the market. Okay, and this is the big part of the strategy, is it allows for us to potentially at points take some very, very big profit relative to a small an initial stop, right? So we took a small initial risk to potentially make really nice big profits. Okay, so let me give you another example. This is not a trade I took, unfortunately. I actually would have loved to take this trade had I been looking at it, of course, in hindsight. But let's say that you got short on this market here. Let's say that you're looking for the momentum to slow down and start going the other direction. Let's say that, you know, after a few bars here, you're saying, okay, hey, momentum is shifting. We're really seeing that bullishness fail. We're not seeing that continue anymore. And for whatever reason you decide, your technical analysis tells you to sell right here. If you catch this one time like this, you'll see what I mean by it can really be account changing. If you put a stop loss up here, you sold into this market and price just goes down, down, down in your favor, catching one good move like this can really grow your account in a realistic way. Why? Because we took a small initial risk, right? If we were to stop out if price goes back above structure for a potential giant reward. And that's the cool thing is, if you catch the right move, if your technical analysis is spot on, right, then you can catch some really, really big moves. And all you're doing to trail stops is, or at least how I do it, is I'm looking for structure. So as price is moving past, if it breaks through a support level, I'll put a stop above it, right? So for example, price moves below this level, let's say it closes here, I'd put a stop above structure here. Price keeps going, let's say we break through this structure, right? I'd put a stop here. And so on and so forth. We break through further, trail the stop further until we eventually get stopped out and take a nice profit. That's the idea with this strategy. And that's how I've been trading this inside of the A1 trading communities. I've been sharing these momentum-based trades, some of which have worked out very, very nicely. Not always, of course, but the idea here is that when we take those profits, they are going to hopefully be much larger than the small losses that we will take in the process of finding those great setups. So again, when I'm taking a trade on the S&P 500 or the US30, I'm looking for momentum to be on my side, looking to be long when the market's going up, and looking to be short when the market's going down. Because again, we take a look at that daily chart. Look at how much momentum has to do with the direction of price. When we start moving down, we start breaking through structure, it tends to continue. When we start to break back up, we've seen this really, really nice bullish rally just continue. And it goes on and on like this. You can see here's a huge bullish rally back in 2019 where there was just tons of upside, and just riding that momentum would have been a huge gainer, right? For example, here's the last time we saw downward momentum, right? And look at this. Lots of momentum comes into the market. It just keeps going and going and going, and catching those moves can be very profitable. And then when things flip, you just join the other team. It's no loyalty to a market. It's not emotional trading. It's going with the direction of the trend and riding that momentum as much as it wants to give you. Guys, I hope this was helpful to you. If you are interested in joining the A1 trading community, there's information in the description down below. Come trade with myself and our other analysts, as well as our entire trading community. It's a blast in there, so don't miss out. Come join us and use that promo code in the description and you'll get $5 off. Thanks so much for watching, and we will see you back in the next video.